right into it. So just for the audience to know, the three hat lifestyle is about all of us literally just wearing three hats. So we can have the time, energy, and just be able to do the things that we really want to do out of life. So a little bit about, she's Chef Shelli. So I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself, and then we'll kind of unpack what are some of her hats and solutions and all that great stuff. So Chef Shelli, tell us about you.
Oh, I am Chef Shelli, the owner and the pastry chef at the Sweet Spot and Urban Lounge. It's a small scratch bake bakery cafe that also has a music lounge, a mobile DJ, and we employ people with special needs.
Nice. And where are you based at, Chef Shelli?
We're located currently at 157 East 8th Street, Suite 118 in Jacksonville, Florida, in Springfield, little community.
Nice. That is a really nice, quaint area.
Very nice.
So I want to find out from you, what are some of those hats that you wear right now? Because it sounds like you wear more than three.
Well, I have the owner entrepreneur hat. I have the pastry chef hat. I have the mother hat, the wife hat. I'm a teacher, so I teach different things at the shop, as well as, you know, training those that I employ.
Okay, so, and when you say those are your hats, do all of these hats require about 25% of your energy each day, roughly?
They all require about 100% of my energy every day.
Oh, Shelli, we only have 100% every day.
I'm like way up here.
Yes. So it sounds like that was about 5 hats, because I know you mentioned chef, but then with the business, you're a chef, you do baking with the business. And was there something else that you do with the business?
Well, with the business, we're also training and teaching. So we employ people with special needs. So we're also giving them a skill so that they would be able to move on and get, you know, better employment, bigger employment, things like that.
Yeah, that is really good, because, you know, that, and I think that's a direction we're all moving in as a society, just being able to have skills. So degrees are great, but even, you know, sometimes you still need a skill to be able to actually enter the workforce. So that's really awesome. So with you being on the podcast today, what would you like to achieve? So if you had that magic wand, you know, what would you like to achieve with being able to have more time for yourself, your family, and just some self-care, just some you time?
Oh, this is my self-care, being here with you. That magic wand is just, you know, it's a lot of times when you're an entrepreneur and a business person, you don't have, you know, you got to find like the right village of people that you could sit and have self-care and quiet time with. Sometimes, and it's odd, so I tell people, sometimes I just like to go into the shop when we're closed and just sit, and I'll binge watch television, and it's just quiet, you know, because it's what I, you know, 7 years of being in business, this is where I was aspiring to be, in a brick and mortar. So I just kind of like to enjoy that space, you know, and that quiet time. Not that I don't love my customers, you know, I do, but it's just nice, quiet. I can reflect and, you know, doze off to sleep if I want to.
Definitely. So if you had to, I guess, eliminate some of the non-essential things that you currently do, what would be some of those things?
Ooh, trying to figure out what's non-essential. It's well, the last child to I guess grow up and leave the household is 18.
Okay.
But she just you know, got into this whole COVID thing. She graduated in June during the COVID, and so she's taken a year to figure out what that college looks like for her. And so, you know, it's a little you would think it's a little bit off my shoulders, but having a child with special needs, you know, on the autism spectrum, she's still there, but you know, we're working on that, trying to, you know, eliminate that, and she's doing really well. So that's a good thing. So, but then I have others. I have friends who you know, every once in a while need a little mothering. So there, that mothering is still there. I don't know. Gosh, that's a hard one, because I I love my pastry chefing and but I'm at the point now, and my husband mentioned it, that we've been doing this for almost a year and
Mm-hmm.
I've figured out the flow. So it's time to hire somebody to do that piece. So then
Okay.
I could move on and do something else, which, you take off that hat, you put on another one.
And no, you take off that hat and you leave it free so then you can have time for self-care. So do you all have the capacity in your business right now to hire someone else?
Currently, no, but that is coming.
Okay.
Some people saw it as, and I haven't like actually put that out there yet, but we
Okay.
have received, because of COVID and not being able for people to come into our space and stuff, we kind of fell behind on some rent. So we have been served an eviction
Yeah.
notice.
Mm-hmm.
So our lease is up in January. However, we've been given an opportunity to move into a bigger space, which will afford us hiring people.
Okay.
And people have been very kind to move us in the direction of where to get funding so that we can do that. And that would alleviate a lot, because right now it's me and my daughter. We have one young man who comes on Saturday, but that would,
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't think that. They think a bigger space, they think more work, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a bigger space where the work could be done by more people than just myself. So that's a good blessing right there.
Okay. So with moving into a bigger spot, will that increase your rent or will it still be around the same amount?
It's gonna, it could do both, because it's a larger space, but then there's a space that we could rent out. So
Okay.
then that could decrease my rent. And then the owner of the space has known me for many years
Okay.
and has always said that I had the talent to run it. I just never
Mhm.
had the funds. So it's like, so he's willing to work with us. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Okay. So from a business standpoint, what is that thing in your business that generates the most income for you right now?
Um, I'm wholesaling. So
Okay.
the wholesaling part is generating more income currently.
Okay. And I'll tell the reason I asked the question because the idea is that if you're able to increase the amount of income you're generating from revenue, then you could have capacity to hire someone else and outsource more things. So then that's less on you. And I think that's really great that your husband even mentioned that, like, hey, honey, like we have the secret sauce now. Okay, we've hit our sweet spot.
There you go.
Now is, what I'm saying? And now is the time to really start outsourcing. So I'm glad that that's already a thought. So I
Yeah.
would definitely encourage you to really think about over this holiday season, how can you spend more time and energy on figuring out how to do more wholesaling so then that can bring in money even faster. So yes, pastries, and I know you bake zucchini bread and all kind of the cool stuff is nice, but I
Yeah.
would really, if people aren't asking for all those extra things, I would really put more of my energy into the wholesaling over this next month or two to really rev that up and bring in more revenue. So you're not stretched just thin doing all those other things that sell but don't sell as well
Right.
as the wholesaling.
Right. Well, and that's where the business originally started from. We rescued food from a food bank when they had an excess,
Okay.
and we would turn that into product, and that works really, really good. And then there are periods when they find enough families to get the product, so we
Mm-hmm.
we don't see as much, and then
Okay.
we have to go out there and purchase it. Now this time of year, they're having the excess again,
Okay.
but you get it, you offer it to families first, and
Mm-hmm.
then we make products. So we've
Okay.
been making jams and jellies to be able to put out in our various markets for the past few weeks. And so it's like, and we're looking for that vacation
Mm-hmm.
coming up. It's coming up.
Yes. So you have the hat of mom, but it sounds like also you've been able to take your daughter and incorporate her in the business. So it's kind of like you're getting that quality time with her. She's learning a skill. She's also figuring out what's next for her life. And you have some support.
Right. So it's, and that's that teacher. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, the mom went into teacher, so now I'm more in teacher mode than mom mode. You know, she doesn't need the mom part as much as now we need the teacher part to kind of guide her and teach her and train her, you know, and help her out in the way she needs to go. Absolutely. And you know, not to mention that she started her own little cookie master tea, and
Okay.
she's making these cookies now, and you know, she started one that's just kind
Mhm.
of blowing up we won't say it broke Facebook, but
Yeah.
I went running errands one day, and then I come back and they're just talking about these cookies, and people are
Mhm.
sending me messages and I don't know what they're talking about. And
Yeah.
she made these cookies out of chocolate sugar cookie dough that looked like poop.
Uh-huh.
And so people just keep asking for these poopy cookies. And I'd be
Uh-huh.
like, what are you talking about? So, you know, she started her own thing on her own. And now it's like, I just delivered cookies this morning for her. So
Okay.
it's pretty fascinating. So I've started my own little entrepreneur over there.
Exactly. So she's your helper and she's also venturing into entrepreneurship herself.
Right.
And I
Right.
know you mentioned being a friend. It sounds like that's not something that is required. Is that required like at least 5 out of 7 days, or is not required that many days?
It's funny because I introduced these two young women to each other, and I
Uh-huh.
said, I'm going to put you in the same Facebook group because it never fails that during the course of the morning,
Hmm.
one of them will send me a text and say, hey, what are you doing today? Hey, what
Hmm.
does your today look like? Hey, what are you doing? Hey, what do you bake? And I'm thinking, hello, I'm at work. Hello, I have a job. Hello, I have a business. What it's like, it's like my today looks like my yesterday. Okay. So
So is this something that you feel like is draining some of your energy, or it doesn't really take much of your energy?
it doesn't take much of my energy. I think they kind of do it just kind of break up my day a little bit, which it's
Oh,
hilarious.
okay.
Yeah,
So it's
it's
not the monotony of wake up, get dressed, go to the bakery, go deliver,
right.
and do it all
So
over again and all over again.
right,
And you
right.
said teach school. So is this like a class you're teaching, or some other individuals with like a homeschool situation? So what does that look like?
When I started, I was teaching at a homeschool co-op.
Okay.
And so now what I do is with the business, since they had shut us down and we couldn't have anybody coming in, I
Hmm.
was doing Zoom classes. So I
Okay.
was teaching people how to can, how to bake bread, how to do that kind of stuff. And
Okay.
so that's what we're going to be doing now towards the holidays. We're going to do some cookie decorating classes and things like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Great. So you're really maximizing the space you currently have. So is this like a grant funded or are individuals self paying for it, or is this just I just want to volunteer and help out?
It's individual self-paying, and
Okay.
then I did do a couple of like really quick Facebook lives. Like I had bought some
Okay.
pineapple and I showed people how to cut a pineapple. They didn't know how. So I showed them how to cut a pineapple. And then I did a talk with the Jacksonville Garden Club.
Oh,
And
nice.
they enjoyed it so much that they want me to come check out their facility because they do have a kitchen and
Okay.
start teaching classes. So then that becomes a paying job.
Awesome. Okay. So you are really, so even, it just sounds like even with your business, it's so many things intertwined with that already. So you're really maximizing your time just with daughter being involved with the business. And she's also learning how to bake and a skill. And then even with the students that you do have, they're also learning how to do things in the kitchen. So it's like a very multifaceted business model. So you can, yes, it is, it uses your energy, but you're getting a lot of stuff done just with the business.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love it. And people say that I'm hilarious. And I'm not, I'm like, I'm hoping that they get what I'm trying to teach them and they're not just sitting there laughing. And but then if they have to take the class again because they weren't paying attention, then it works out.
Okay. So we've talked about your business owner hat, but it sounds like your husband helps with that, and also your daughter.
Well, now I wish that first part was true.
Okay, gotcha. So husband is there for brainstorming purposes, throwing different
Okay.
ideas out there. But far as physically, your daughter is there to support that.
Right.
And you also mentioned being a mother, but luckily you also have your daughter who can help out with the business. So that's a plus.
Yes.
You mentioned being a wife.
Yeah.
And then far as the confidant, yes, that's something you do, but luckily that's not something that's draining you. Because for some people, they do have friends where it's like, okay, this is like another job. And then a discussion would be a little bit different. But with your friends, it's more of an asset. And they're
Right.
just like, hey, let's break up the monotony. How you doing? What you doing today? Even though they know you're doing the same thing because you do the same thing every day.
Right. 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 Ah,
So what
it's
is the next thing you plan to do? Since it sounds like the biggest thing right now is just business, generating more income in the business. So then you can, once you move into the space, have more money to hire other people and do more. So what's going to be your next step with your business?
The next step with the business is currently we're working on marketing the new space. As soon as that becomes a 100% thing, today I've been calling contractors to check on pricing for roofs and things like that. So it's just a matter of we're doing some grant writing for some grant funding, which I'm excited about. And it was interesting because when I've gone through trying to do this business, it gets a little convoluted and I get a little sidetracked. And, the whole thing is, it's a teaching thing and getting people to eat healthier and things like that. And so the whole part of my business where we do make jams and jellies and pickles, and even in the baking part, we don't use pre-packaged things. Is there anybody around that uses flour and sugar and butter and eggs? I see people buying cake mix, and I see people on Facebook and some of these groups going,
Mhm.
well, so and so has the best cake mix. And I'm like, you're using cake mix? It's like,
Uh-huh.
what? So, it's more of a teacher model. And I think that's the part of the job that I like the best is teaching people, and even when I make something interesting that nobody's ever heard of, like we
Mhm.
made Roselle jam and people didn't know what Roselle was. And I said, well, it's the same as hibiscus flower, the same thing they make that sorrel for the
Uh-huh.
Jamaicans. And then they go, oh, I know what that is. So it's all leading to a show that I'm trying to put on that's going to be called Grow It, Preserve It, Cook It, where
Okay.
I teach you how to grow it, then how to preserve it, because that's my main thing is
Mhm.
being ready for hurricane season, preserving something, and then what to do with it once you have all these jars of preserved food. So how
Okay.
to cook it, what to do with it, kind of a thing.
That
And
sounds, yeah,
uh,
that's nice.
yeah, because it'll go with, it helps us as a community and as a people eat better. We don't have to worry about being so sick and having to take all
Mhm.
these pills and things like that, and utilizing what we already have outside.
Okay. So you mentioned contracting, looking for a roof for the place. You mentioned grant writing, and also with the preserves. We know that's future. We know that's not the priority right now, but definitely it is on the idea board. And it's like, okay, this is what's going to be next once we officially get into the building.
Yeah.
So with those two things you mentioned, I know those aren't necessarily income generating. So what would be the next income generating thing you're going to really put all of your energy into between now and we'll just say mid-January?
Well, the preserves and jellies and jams are what's wholesaling right now.
Okay. All right,
So
perfect.
yeah, that's what's wholesaling right now, and it's good because it has a 1 year shelf life. So we can, as we get produce in, we can just, we put it in jams and jellies or pickles, depending on what the produce is, and we
Okay.
know we're good, and that can sit on the shelf. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's good right now. And my husband has already started looking at, because we were looking at not being in our brick and mortar the end of this year, but our lease is up in January, so we may take it to January, and then he's looking at bigger venues like 2-day events
Mhm.
to set up to sell the jams and jellies while the
Okay.
building. Yeah.
Nice. So, okay, so you're looking into doing some fairs to sell the jams and jelly. I know you mentioned wholesale. Are there particular or a way to get lists of new companies to identify, or it's just more so just touching bases with the companies that you all currently wholesale with?
It um I'm going to touch base with the one that's really doing really well. Standard
Okay.
Feed is doing really, really well.
Mhm.
We're in a store, the St. Augustine Outlet Mall, which January is kind of an iffy month anyway. People
Mhm.
people do their New Year's resolutions and they decide I'm not going to eat sugar. And then there was a year that we said, okay, well, everyone wasn't eating sugar, so we changed up, and then people came in looking for
Mm-hmm.
cookies with sugar in it. They were like, I'm not doing that. So, it's for the food industry, January, it's kind of hit and miss. So, but we're working on some, and I just talked to a girl online today
Okay.
who I told her, because of the facility where we're
Mm-hmm.
at, we don't have a hood system. So
Okay.
we got to be careful about what we cook. So I
Mm-hmm.
was doing a lot of things like soups and things that I could do in a crock pot. So
Okay.
then that way I could get away with serving lunch without having to fry anything. So that was fun. And
Yeah.
and then I've been learning a lot of vegan recipes because there seems to be a
Mm-hmm.
big vegan push. And so
Okay.
that was kind of fun too. It's good because, I'm learning something new, and then I could turn around and teach it at the same
Okay.
time. So yeah.
And I know one of the things you've mentioned is just time for self-care. So when do you make time for you to just have a moment just to just to breathe? It doesn't mean it has to be a spa day. It doesn't have to be this whole adventure. It could just simply be, this is just Chef Shelli carved out time that's just for you.
When I'm sleeping, which
Okay.
sometimes I just come home and I fall asleep in the chair. For some reason, I'm always going. There was one night I woke up in the middle of the night. There's a thing out now called hot chocolate bombs. There's a
Okay.
ball of chocolate, you put it in a cup, you pour hot milk or water or coffee
Mhm.
on top of it. The chocolate melts, the cocoa powder's inside. And I was waiting for molds to come.
Mhm.
And sometime during the night, it dawned on me that we had some dome lids in the shop and maybe that would work. And the next day I went and I tried it. But in the middle of the night, the idea just popped in my head. It comes a couple of
Mhm.
days during the month where I'll go outside. Today, I mentioned earlier, we had workmen outside
Mhm.
and they're scraping the windows around the house. So I went out and I took my machete and I'm sure the guy was like thinking, what is she getting ready to do? And I went outside and hacked some plants and I
Mhm.
said, this is really good. And I was like,
Yeah.
I get out frustration. My mother says, if you're mad, just go out and cut down a tree. I said,
Mhm.
okay. So that's, I take them where I can and I don't take enough of them. I will be one to admit that there are days I would love to have an adventure. I'd love to just go, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm
Mhm.
not answering the phone. I
Yeah.
don't look at emails. And I've had a couple of those days when I just go, not doing it, not
Mhm.
doing it. And it feels good. I don't even really notice it until I realize, oh, there was some stuff I was supposed to do. Well, it didn't get done, and tomorrow's another day.
And what about being a little more, I guess, intentional about it? Like, what day of the week is the day where you don't necessarily have as much planned? Like, I guess a day that your retail shop is not open.
Well, we're closed on Sunday and Monday, and it
Okay.
was supposed to be Sunday for going to church and being with family. Then COVID shut church down.
Okay.
And then Sunday is my only day to restock one of the stores because
Okay.
it's just me and my daughter in the
Yeah.
shop. And so I can't leave her just to go,
Oh, yeah.
drive to St. Augustine.
Mhm.
So then that kind of turned into self-care because we would go down there and then we would take the long way back. We wouldn't get on the highway. We would take the street and
Mhm.
meander and go look at some, thrift stores. Or
Yeah.
my girlfriend and I would drive down to Waldo and buy cases of produce.
Okay.
It's still a business thing, but that's when they sold it. It was available for pickup on Saturday or Sunday. So, we'd go do that. And then we're closed Monday, which if I just bought cases of produce on Sunday, I got to process them on Monday, or Tuesday we show up to, not good stuff. So, it just was, it was a hard thing. Sometimes when we do events, because now what we do is we'll close on a Saturday and go do
Okay.
an event. Then doing the event became the self-care because it was like being at a big, we're going to the fair and festival ourselves. So we'll walk around and we'll enjoy
Okay.
it, or take ourselves out to lunch after the event, because, it's kind of relaxed. So
Okay.
self-care became it was, going to the chiropractor became, this is my self-care day. I'm going to go get a bagel and I'm going to get a Starbucks and, once a month I go to get adjusted.
Mhm.
So, you make it where you can. So, but we're going to do it between Christmas and New Year's. we're closed for that whole week. And last
Nice.
year we went to Helen, Georgia, which is a little Christmas town up in Georgia,
Mhm.
and had a nice time. So this year we're trying to figure out someplace to go.
Okay, nice. Vacation is on the way, so that's
There you
perfect. But
go.
also on the Mondays when you're in town, I know you have to still, prep the produce for Tuesday, but is there any time that Monday morning you could just take a moment just for you, even if it's just 30 minutes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I used to like listen to music, and
Okay.
my bedroom has a large wall of glass, sliding glass door. And so, I look and I watch the squirrels run up and down the trees, and the breeze and things like that. There are those few rare, Mondays, it's hard because when I have meetings, I have to put the meetings in on Monday because I got to be present
Mhm.
at the shop. So
Yeah.
makes it a little difficult. That's why that hiring another person is going to come in really handy. Or I have to listen
It-
to webinars, or I have to,
mhm.
so yeah.
Exactly. And then the key to hiring someone else and having capacity is putting most of the energy into wholesaling over this next month or so.
Right.
So then you can be able to hire someone else, which then would, free up some of your time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just that fact that the new space, I get an office. My office now is in the middle of my shop. So I'm like, I have an office. I feel like a real boss now.
Exactly. So anything else you feel like you can do now to get that peace and relief? So I know you have the vacation coming up. You're exploring Mondays. You're not sold on it completely, but you are exploring it. Just 30 minutes. Anything else you can do to get some peace and relief, now as you're, still continuing to be mom and business owner and wife?
Oh, it's funny because I'm sitting here looking across at my kitchen. I'm also a home decorator, contractor, tile setter. But see, it's funny because some of those things I do, some of those things are really self-care for me,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
going out and working in my garden,
Mhm.
for me it's self-care. I mean, those plants needed to be hacked down anyway because they got a little frostbite. But, so for me, that was, being home now and being able to go outside and take care of my yard
Mhm.
is self-care, which is why I got a house with a half
Yeah.
acre in the backyard, because I want to do those things. So it's yeah, so it's like any day that I come home and it's daylight, I can go out there in my yard. It's a good
Okay.
day.
So that's still time for you. So yes, it doesn't have to be music or spas. I mean, long as it's something therapeutic or it's something that you actually enjoy, where
Yes.
you can just have quiet time and do it, that's still a form of just taking care of yourself, taking time for you. And it's,
Yeah.
it's twofold. You're actually getting something done that needs to get done, but then you actually do, love it. So
Yeah.
that's a win-win. So that's the same. Yeah, smart. You are getting some of those things are, and I guess maybe we had to talk it through for you to see, like, what? It might feel like I'm all over the place all the time, but in
Right.
actuality, you're able to get some of those things in that you enjoy.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. I thank you for that.
You're welcome. So anything else, any questions, thoughts, any key takeaways from today?
It's the thing. Sometimes the things that I look at as, it's really self-care because it's things that I enjoy doing. I don't really stress. I have a friend who comes in and wants to know how am I always so calm? And I said, well, what else should I be? Because that's just who I am. I don't like the stress of,
Mhm.
that's the reason I got out of corporate America, because I like doing my own thing and it's not stressful until I have to do, it's tax season coming up. But that's another story. So I'm going to be calm and I'm going to take all my self-care now because soon I won't have it. But no, it all amounts to what I enjoy doing. And so
Yeah,
it's all self-care.
exactly. It's the things you enjoy doing, and you've incorporated your daughter into a lot of the things that
Yeah.
you're doing, and she's building her own business now and figuring out her next steps, in life. So
Yes.
it's like a win-win all the way around. And even with your vision of having a facility and training more students that are gifted, so
Yeah.
it's still all working, it's all working together. So then you can get to that point. So this is really, really, really exciting, Chef Shelli.
Oh, I'm like, I can't believe it. It's all happening. It's all happening.
It is, and it's coming together. And I think the thing that I love most about you and your life and your family is like it's all in alignment. It's not like you're saying, I'm going to start this tennis shoe store. And by the way, I bake. And by the way, I teach kids. And by the
Right.
way,
Right.
Lequita, I'm going to go get my doctorate degree in theology tomorrow. So it's just great that when I really, as we really, at least for me, as we talk through things, I'm like, Chef Shelli is saying she needs peace and to feel relieved, but in actuality, everything you're doing is all in alignment
Yeah.
with training, teaching, baking, helping young adults, and even maybe people that school age too. But it's
Yep.
all under that same umbrella, and just taking those little, and some people say take baby steps. I say take baby latching, okay? Because it can be even smaller than steps, because as we know, babies do a lot before they even get to the taking steps. So
Right.
just
Right.
really, so yes, the big picture is, oh my goodness, this gigantic facility and all this, but in actuality right now it's simply, hey, let me get this money right now, so while I'm doing the wholesaling, to
Right.
be able to fund that, and then exploring the grant. So just taking it as like very small baby latchings, okay, like very small, which is really, really like itty bitty. Like that's one of the first things they do as a baby before
Right.
they even
Right.
take steps. So just
Right.
making it really small, and just taking some time for you. But like you said, you're already doing some of that when you're doing the gardening and all that other stuff, which kudos to you for loving to do that.
I
That's
was
not my,
outside today and it was drizzling. It was drizzling. I had my boots on. I had some shorts. I put a long
uh-huh.
sleeve shirt on, and I went out with this machete. And this guy was like, "Wait, he says English is minimal, and my
Yeah.
Spanish is minimal, but we've been talking." And so he's like working his way around the side of the house where there's no plants, and then he gets to the front and he goes, "Can I cut these?" I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I'll come out and do that." So it's like, let me show you what to do. So yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Exactly. And I'm really excited to hear from you next year about how did the vacation go? How are the Mondays going? How are things going with all the tiling and the plants and the gardening? That you're still doing those things that, it's work that has to get done, but also you love it. So
Yeah,
it's still a form of taking time for you.
there you go. That's it. Hey.
Yay! So I thank you so much, Chef Shelli, for coming on the Three Hat Lifestyle podcast today. Definitely, for those of you who are watching, make sure you go to the 3hatlifestyle.com. Once again, that's the 3hatlifestyle.com to get the free download. I'm Lequita Brooks, and live the 3 Hat Lifestyle.
Yay.